Welcome to hour number 2, live right here on this Tuesday on the early line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. The coaching carousel in the National Football League is starting to spin just a little bit more. We're 5 days away from Conference Championship Sunday in the National Football League. 4 teams still in the hunt for a Super Bowl appearance in Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas, but the offseason already underway for those 28 other clubs. We'll continue to set the stage for Conference Championship weekend. We'll talk a little PGA Tour action out in California coming up next. But Donnie, we start with that coaching carousel. The Tennessee Titans have found their next head coach. Brian Callahan, the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati the past 5 seasons, now becomes the head coach for this Titans organization in Nashville moving forward. How would you grade the hire the Titans made yesterday?
It's hard to grade it initially, but if you're looking for a franchise that says, you know what, we went through Vrabel, which was a very good part of their tenure because they were competitive. But the one thing we never estimated into that, or should I say put it to the conversation, Ben, was this. Oh, man, Tennessee's got one of the best offenses in the NFL. No, it was like, let's win close games because we're focused and we don't turn the football over. It's time to get into the new millennium of offenses. And if you figure you have your young quarterback in Will Levis, you need an offensive maestro that's going to allow him to open up the passing game. And anybody coming from that Sean McVay tree, which, again, is an extension there through Zach Taylor, it's not really a bad hire because if you're getting an offense that produced Joe Burrow, say, you know what, why not? This guy did some very good things there in Cincinnati. Maybe he's ready to take the next step here. I don't mind the love. Do I love the decision? No, but I don't mind it here. I'll give it a B grade. It's an offensive guy. You need some offense. Good hire.
Let's welcome in that SportsGrid radio audience here to start off hour number 2 of this Tuesday on the early line. He is Donnie. I am Ben. You're listening on Sirius XM channel 159. All of our radio terrestrial affiliates now in the mix as well. Brian Callahan named the new head coach in Tennessee. There were 7 head coaching vacancies entering this coaching carousel after the Patriots really already had their plan of succession for Bill Belichick, tabbing Gerard Mayo as the successor in Foxborough. This was one of the true openings that was out there, one of the surprising openings that became available. Mike Vrabel let go after 6 years. He had been the head coach in Tennessee since 2018. Now, Brian Callahan has been a name floated for a couple of off seasons as an offensive mind to pay attention to. Is it a huge splash for this Titans organization? Not necessarily. Could it be a good hire? That remains to be seen. The pedigree for Callahan is more than just his last name. The son of Bill Callahan, longtime NFL head coach, and of course in college football with Nebraska as well. Before coming to Cincinnati, he was the QB's coach for the Raiders, QB's coach for the Detroit Lions, working with Matthew Stafford and Derek Carr. Also an offensive assistant in Denver alongside Peyton Manning. The quarterbacks he has worked with should give folks that like this Titans franchise some optimism of how he can groove Will Levis for this next level, and that will be the key, right? That is the number one thing of importance. A quarterback that you drafted with the 2nd overall pick in the 2nd round to see if Levis is your guy in the face of the franchise moving forward. Donnie, we talked about the Houston Texans. Will they win a Super Bowl in the next 5 seasons? I am fascinated to see what the Texans do in their own division, because the Titans have now found their way to the bottom of the barrel. There are going to be some big changes for this Tennessee team. A new head coach in Brian Callahan, a new quarterback moving forward, and a day 1 starter in Will Levis. I don't expect Derrick Henry to return to this organization in Nashville because the Titans were, entering last season, an odds-on favorite to win this division. They should have won the division. They were 7-4 before they dropped their last 6 games. It is how Tennessee has struggled over the span of the last 2 NFL seasons. But now you're in a division where the Texans look like the future is incredibly bright in H-Town. The Jaguars still have Trevor Lawrence entering year number 4. They were the odds-on favorite entering this season. And an Indianapolis Colts team that nearly won a division without their quarterback of the future in Anthony Richardson should have some hope moving forward as well. It will be interesting to see where the Titans factor into that 4-team conversation in the AFC South.
Yeah, and it was time to hit the reset button here, right? Because you're taking a look at other teams finding their quarterbacks. Now you have to find your quarterback and get an offensive play caller here to move you into the next role. Because you did bring up the point. Derrick Henry's gone. You're no longer a running team that's going to be plotting up and down the field. Do you hope that you have a great defense? Of course you do. But it's time for those offensive concepts to come in. And if you feel that you have the quarterback or not, you can make a move, maybe a 1-year evaluation period if Will Levis can be your guy before you're moving on to the next step. But I thought it was probably the perfect reset button because other teams have found what they need moving forward. You don't yet. It's time to get offensive here, and they've certainly done that. I'm interested to see how this team plays out, and also if they keep even like a DeAndre Hopkins around at this point. You're going to rely on Treylon Burks, who hasn't shown us much, if of anything here, because he can't stay healthy on the field. So if you were going to blow up the Titans and get rid of Vrabel as your coach, this was the time to do it. Quarterback in Tannehill, gone. Leading rusher of the franchise, gone. You're going to take a look at some of those defensive guys probably changing hands. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Let's see what the Titans have next year. Expecting big things? Not necessarily, but you want to build that foundation here based on offense, no longer defense.
Under their preseason win total this year of 7.5 with just 6 wins, I would not be surprised to see the number right there, maybe even a tad under, around 7 or 6.5. So 6 head coaching vacancies still standing in the National Football League, and we expect it to just be 6 at this point. GM in Philadelphia, Howie Roseman, is holding an end-of-year press conference tomorrow with head coach Nick Sirianni, where all expectations are that Sirianni will remain the head coach entering 2024 for this Eagles organization. But earlier this week, Sean Desai let go as the defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia moving on as well. And early this morning, confirmed that Brian Johnson, who spent the past season as the offensive coordinator for the Birds, will not be back as the OC next season. Plenty of changes to the coaching staff, but Nick Sirianni still going to be the one calling the shots.
Yeah, and rightfully so. He deserves another chance to come back. He's won more football games over his first 3 years than any coach in Eagles history, so there's something to go forward with that. But again, you take a look at how they ended the season, it was quite embarrassing. Now, granted, you are the head coach. A lot of that's going to fall under your wings of saying, like, you know what, I should have corrected this issue earlier. And they did try some things, but they just didn't have the coaches in-house that they had last year. To whiff on both coordinators coming off of a Super Bowl is certainly going to hurt your football team. But this was also a 10-1 team this season at one point. They are going to have that meeting with the media tomorrow on Wednesday. They better have some answers, Ben. So I would expect either an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator already lined up by the time they meet the media tomorrow.
It was reported yesterday that the Eagles had been in contact and expected to interview Ron Rivera to be their defensive coordinator. The last time that Riverboat Ron was a DC was with the Chargers in 2010. That San Diego team led the league in total defense. The PGA Tour, a preview next.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Kyle Shanahan said after the game it was the same shoulder that made Deebo Samuel miss 2 games throughout this regular season in 2023.
Last time it was a scapular fracture. He missed a couple weeks. By video, we don't see that. It was the play that he got hit and had a head check. It's more believed to be a muscle injury. X-rays are proven to be negative. They're saying 50-50 right now.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a Knicks fan. I feel bad for Obi Toppin. I mean, Obi Toppin was backing up Julius Randle, and then he got his opportunity. Indiana was playing great. Didn't play deep. Brought him off the bench. And now they got Pascal Siakam, and now he's going into a free agent year. So Obi may be looking for a new home. But I do like that fast break if it's Halliburton with Obi and Siakam.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
They were best friends. Like they like Siakam's best friend on the team was Chris Boucher. Chris Boucher's best friend on the team was Pascal Siakam. They're not American, right? So there's different cliques in the NBA. And they were very, very tight. So Chris Boucher, I got rattled like seeing Chris Boucher and thinking about the memories, but Raptors responded.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
One that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Tuesday on the early line on SportsGrid. It's the early portion of the 2024 PGA Tour season into that West Coast swing out in California. I am Ben Stevens. Donnie right side, of course, is here. And Keith Stewart joins us live right here on the early line on this Tuesday to preview the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines out in San Diego. Keith, glad to have you here on a Tuesday, because this event starts tomorrow on a Wednesday, not that usual Thursday opening round out on the tour.
Ben, Donnie, it's good to be with you. You just stole my thunder there. Let's get started. This thing starts tomorrow.
So let's go right into it. The energy at a high out to San Diego in Torrey Pines, one of the best tracks you can play out in Southern California. So, Keith, as we look at the format, of course, last week at the American Express, it was the amateur from Alabama, Nick Dunlap, coming away with a victory, the first amateur to win on tour in a very, very long time. But I bring up the Amex because it was played on 3 different courses out in La Quinta, California. This will be played on both the South and the North course at Torrey Pines. How does the format influence what we are going to see out in San Diego?
The first 2 days, the guys are going to play both the North and the South. The South, everybody knows it hosted the 2008, that's the broken leg Tiger Woods U.S. Open, and then the 2021 U.S. Open with Jon Rahm winning. We're going to get that over Friday and Saturday. Wednesday, Thursday, they're going to split the other 2 courses. The North course is about 500 yards shorter than the monster that is the South course and the brutal one. And speaking of long, yesterday they got over an inch of rain. Over the last 36 hours, Torrey's received well over an inch of rain. Long is just about to get longer. So you said, things are high out there on the PGA Tour. Well, I'll tell you, the barometer's high right now.
Keith, taking a look at the players that are entering in this field with Nick Dunlap will not be there mulling his future here in the PGA Tour. And by the way, I believe the last win by an amateur was way back in the 90s by Phil Mickelson. So one would say, yes, $1.5 million would have been fantastic. But if he has the same career trajectory as Phil Mickelson, I think he'll be okay in the wallet here. Give us some players that we're looking at this week where these courses fit here.
Well, the favorites at the top of the board, you've got a bunch of California guys. You've got Xander, Colin, Patrick Cantlay, and, of course, your defending champion, Max Homa. Now, all those guys are coming in, depending on the board, under 12-1. You know what? All of them are great players. Max, the defending champion, is really the only one who's had winning success there. The other guys, it's a bit muddled. I'm looking a little further down the board, and I like a rookie there. I mean, we've had a wild start to the season. We had a 200-1 winner at the Century in Kirk, 400-1. Grayson Murray at 400-1 at the Sony. Man, I tell you, I need my coffee this morning. Then Nick Dunlap, the amateur, and that was 1991 there. Donnie, that he won back there at Tucson, and he put on that helmet, that famous picture, right? That's 33 years ago. Well, of course, now we're looking at Ludwig Oberg, and he is my guy near the top of the leaderboard at plus 2,200. He's the guy for me. I mean, he is the best driver of the golf ball on the PGA Tour, not named Rory. I love his long iron game. It's a great suit for the South course where you have to be a bomber. You need the power. So near the top of the board, I'm not, I'm fading the guys that are the favorites, and I'm going with Ludwig. I love him.
Time for that sixth best price at the moment, 22-1. Fill in finances. Interesting equation Donnie right side made right there. Keith, if we were to go down the board even more, looking at those outright odds, where might be some value plays for this event this week out on tour?
Well, one of the guys that I like right there in the middle tier, the lower middle tier, is a guy by the name of Sahith Theegala. He's another California guy. And if you look at his last 3 starts there in his home state, he won at the Fortinet. He was 6th back at the Genesis. He was 4th at the Farmers last year. So there's a guy right there. He was runner-up at the Century to start his year. I spend a lot of time out on tour, and I'm about to go do that again for a couple of weeks out on the West Coast. But before I get there, I can tell you from last year, Theegala is one of those guys that shuts down the range every single night when he's out on tour. And he's a really sneaky good long iron player. That's why he's played well at the Farmers before. He's an incredible putter, birdie or better percentage. He's going to make enough subpar scores. In the middle, I like him. And then I love to look at different leaderboards. The DP World Tour got started. Everybody's talking about Rory over there, but there's another name. Adrian Meronk, the Polish wonder. I mean, this guy, he is super long, and he's really good. He was 10th 2 weeks ago. He was runner-up to Rory this past week. He's a perfect fit for this golf course, the power and also the precision that he possesses. Man, I tell you, I think that he, at like right around 60-1, is somebody that everyone should have their eye on.
Quirks in this tournament, as we pointed out, starting Wednesday, not the typical Thursday. Usually professional golfers, much like everybody else, would be creatures of habit. Is there anybody that you figure would gain an advantage from this? Or it's just like, you know what? It's 4 rounds to play. We'll play those even if we're finishing up on a Saturday as opposed to a Sunday.
Well, I think that the guys that are already playing or finished up on Sunday, it's not a far commute from Palm Desert over to San Diego. Those guys are in their routine. I think that they would have a little bit of advantage, but not much. I mean, these guys are so used to playing off and on golf. And, whether it's a weather delay or a different day of the week that they start, for me, I really think that it doesn't matter that much. It's slim. Maybe I would favor the guys that just played in the Amex, but to be honest with you, I think that the guys that are horses for courses is a bigger advantage than anything else.
Keith, when it comes to golf handicapping, everybody looks at the long prices and the outright odds, but you can take it a step further, looking at finishing positions, top 10, top 20, top 40, and find some value there as well. Who do you believe has a good week out in San Diego at the Farmers Insurance Open?
One of the past champions, in fact, Jason Day won there twice, right? He's got 3 top 10s in his last 5 starts. So I'm going to play him this week on my card at a top 10. Another guy who's had a lot of success out there in the top 20 market is Sungjae Im. I mean, his last 2 starts there have been top 10s. And the way that he strikes the golf ball so straight off the tee, it goes without saying, too, like these greens here on the South Course, they're only 5,000 square feet. That is small by PGA Tour standards. This is the longest golf course they played in 2023. So if you combine the length of the golf course and the small greens, you're going to miss a couple. Sungjae Im does well there because he has a really, really savvy short game. So I love him in a top 20. And here's a couple names for you coming off injuries last year that have been playing much better as of late, and they're under a little bit of pressure, and they've had good success at the Farmers in the past. Top 40 guys like Lanto Griffin and Mav McNeely, who has always been good out there on the West Coast.
Quick question on this, Keith, as well. We like to see some of these golfers get out to a quick start, but the interesting part here at the FanDuel Sportsbook is you actually have 2 criteria here because each one of these courses, north and south. Give me a golfer to look at and maybe gets a hot start in this tournament that we can bank on.
Well, I tell you, that's a great question. And you have to be looking, certainly anyone that's playing the North is probably, when we look at the top 10 from the first round there on Wednesday, they're certainly going to be probably 60% from the North course. It just plays about a stroke and a half easier than the South. I would certainly look for some of the California boys to get off to a hot start, even though you're not going to get great odds with Xander as a first-round leader. I still think he's the type of guy that loves to get off the hot starts. We saw it last year in California at the U.S. Open when he shot that 62. He would be one name that I would be favoring when it comes to Wednesday.
Yeah, those four best prices all hail from the state of California. Xander Schauffele and Max Homa will start on the South course. You can bet that specific market. Schauffele, the favorite, to have the best first-round score on the South course at 14-1. Colin Morikawa and Patrick Cantlay will start on the North course. Keith Stewart, we appreciate the time. Thank you for joining us here on this Tuesday on the early line to break down the Farmers Insurance Open. We go back to football, entering Conference Championship weekend. Up next.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev. Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't
favorite.
care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Kyle Shanahan said after the game it was the same shoulder that made Deebo Samuel miss 2 games throughout this regular season in 2023.
Last time it was a scapular fracture. He missed a couple weeks. By video, we don't see that. It was the play that he got hit and had a head check. It's more believed to be a muscle injury. X-rays are proven to be negative. They're saying 50-50 right now.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a Knicks fan. I feel bad for Obi Toppin. I mean, Obi Toppin was backing up Julius Randle, and then he got his opportunity in Indiana, was playing great, didn't play D, brought him off the bench, and now they got Pascal Siakam, and now he's going into a free agent year. So Obi may be looking for a new home. But I do like that fast break if it's Halliburton with Obi and Siakam.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
They were best friends. Like Siakam's best friend on the team was Chris Boucher. Chris Boucher's best friend on the team was Pascal Siakam. They're not American, right? So there's different cliques in the NBA, and they were very, very tight. So Chris Boucher, I got rattled seeing Chris Boucher and thinking about the memories. But Raptors responded.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
One that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The NFL's Final Four. 4 teams still in the running for a Super Bowl championship in this 2023 NFL season. The first game up on Conference Championship Sunday It's the Baltimore Ravens hosting the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC title game. Lamar Jackson, the quarterback for the flock. Patrick Mahomes, of course, in his 6th consecutive AFC championship game on the other side for the Chiefs. The nightcap on Sunday in Santa Clara. It's the San Francisco 49ers, the 1 seed in the NFC, against the Detroit Lions. The Lions in an NFC championship game for the first time in 32 years. San Francisco appearing in that NFC title game for the 4th time in the past 5. So 4 teams still in the chase for that Lombardi Trophy. Multiple guys across the 4 rosters, led by the quarterbacks in most part for that Super Bowl MVP award. So before we get into conference championship weekend, still 5 days out, we look at the Super Bowl 58 MVP odds and where the value might still be. Again, it's been the same thing for most of this postseason. It was the case at this point last week entering the divisional round. Lamar Jackson is the favorite to win the Super Bowl MVP award at plus 210, nearly $1.50 in front of Brock Purdy. But Lamar's team, of which he is the quarterback for, the Baltimore Ravens, has the second best price to win Super Bowl 58. Brock's team, of which he is the quarterback for, the San Francisco 49ers, Donnie, the favorites to win that Lombardi Trophy in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and the interesting part is you're right. The favorites are the 49ers, but the favorite to win the MVP is not Brock Purdy because he's probably the only one that we argue about. If there is an equal playing field in the Super Bowl, does Brock Purdy get the nod? This is a conversation, Ben, that we had over the weekend on Pro Football Today, which got Kevin very heated up as I tried to explain my thought process behind this, because this also included Josh Allen. We thought, well, maybe there was a chance that he could get to the Super Bowl, was in the MVP market. But the overall look here is if the Ravens win it, right, Ben, and you take a look at Lamar Jackson, let's just say, again, everything's equal. Andrews had a touchdown catch. Odell Beckham had a touchdown catch. But again, your quarterback, Lamar Jackson, threw both of those, and everybody's in the same pot. Nobody really stands out. Lamar Jackson's going to get the call to the MVP. Case in point, if Kansas City gets there. Isaiah Pacheco, 75 yards and a touchdown. Mahomes, 245 and 2 scores, but no, and Kelsey catches a touchdown as part of one of those. Patrick Mahomes probably going to get the nod here. But if you watch the game that played out just over the weekend, where Brock Purdy actually led the touchdown drive in order for the San Francisco 49ers to win that football game, you know who cashed in that final touchdown for a second tonight? It was Christian McCaffrey. We would throw in that pot and be like, ooh, this is a really tough call. So you see the angle I'm playing here is if you have the cachet with the other quarterbacks here to win it. Brock Purdy doesn't have that cachet yet. That's why you're seeing the favorite to win the Super Bowl, the 49ers, but Brock Purdy at a plus 340 price. Because if everything is equal, there's a chance that Debo, Ayuk, maybe Bosa and or Christian McCaffrey can steal that from Brock Purdy.
Yeah, absolutely so. Look at the odds right now. Look at the Super Bowl 58 MVP odds right now. Christian McCaffrey, the running back for the San Francisco 49ers, to call him just a running back really does not explain his significance to this offense. The guy that does it all for this 49ers offense has a better price cut in half in front of Jared Goff, who is a quarterback for one of the 4 teams that will play on Conference Championship Sunday. And then take it a step further. There are 5 San Francisco 49ers that have a price in the top 8 of the Super Bowl 58 MVP odds. It says 2 things in my estimation. 1, San Francisco is the favorite still to win Super Bowl 58 at plus 145. And 2, if the Niners do hoist that Lombardi Trophy high up into the desert air in Las Vegas, it might not just be automatically the quarterback in Brock Purdy to win the Super Bowl MVP award. But it should also be pointed out that the numbers in the distinction between the Niners and the Ravens is getting shorter even before conference championship weekend. We shared the early look-ahead lines for the 4 potential Super Bowl 58 matchups. We'll dive into those in just a little bit as well. But now, Donnie, only a 30-cent difference between San Francisco, plus 145, the favorites to win Super Bowl 58, and the Baltimore Ravens, who yesterday, at the conclusion of the divisional round, plus 210 to win that Lombardi Trophy this season. Now, plus 175. So again, only a 30-cent gap currently between San Francisco and Baltimore, which means Lamar Jackson's price to win Super Bowl 58 MVP is also getting shorter by the day.
Yeah, and you know what I'm interested to see, too, because we sort of had these arguments, right? Like, well, we saw the San Francisco 49ers get bludgeoned by the Baltimore Ravens on Christmas. And you're saying to yourself, like, well, why are we looking at these future prices here on the 49ers, Ben, right, at plus 145? And we know how good the Ravens are. And the Ravens look tremendous in blowing out the Houston Texans the week before. And the San Francisco 49ers had to come right down to the gun and steal a game from the Green Bay Packers. Well, the simple analysis is the Baltimore Ravens are going to take place and play the Kansas City Chiefs this weekend in the AFC Championship game. That's perceived as a tougher matchup than the San Francisco 49ers going obviously up against the Detroit Lions. Now, granted, all four teams very good, legitimate chance for upsets, yes, but the path to victory seems to be a little bit easier for the 49ers, and rightfully so. But then you take a look even at that futures market here where you're allowed to bet the Super Bowl, Ben, here at the FanDuel Sportsbook, and the 49ers are still a slight favorite here against the Baltimore Ravens. I can't wait to see how this weekend plays out, because if the Baltimore Ravens end up beating the Kansas City Chiefs by margin, I'm not talking about a late Justin Tucker field goal to steal this one, which still be a great victory, and the Ravens will take that. But I'm looking at one of those games in the fourth quarter. It's like, this is the Ravens game. Up by a touchdown, defensive stop, game's over. I want to see if that market price changes and also equates to what we get out of the San Francisco 49ers against the Detroit Lions. So also brings in the fact that those MVP prices are certainly going to change as well. If you think the Baltimore Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl, for me, it's Lamar Jackson, I would bet, at a plus 210 price now, then the Baltimore Ravens at the plus 175. But the same factors you go into and say, are you just going to pick the 49ers to win the Super Bowl? I would do that as opposed to saying to myself, well, I think McCaffrey can win it, and I think Brock Purdy can win it, because there's a legitimate chance that you would be left at the bet. Imagine saying this, Super Bowl is going to be decided and this 49ers is going to win it. I want to make that bet. And you go, you know what? Let me increase my prices. So you're waiting at the end of that football game when the 49ers won by 14 points to see if it's going to be Purdy or McCaffrey, when you could have just took the 145 at that point and didn't sweat it out, right?
Completely agree. Is there a little bit better value for Lamar Jackson than the individual price for the Ravens to win Super Bowl 58? Yes, I think you could make that argument, because somebody would have to go bonkers, or the game script would have to look completely different than what we would expect for Lamar Jackson and the narrative surrounding him not to be given the honor of being Super Bowl 58 MVP if the flock end up winning that Lombardi trophy. But because of the narratives, wrong or correct, around Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers, if Purdy throws for 250, but McCaffrey has 125 scrimmage yards, you know who's winning Super Bowl 58 MVP? It's Christian McCaffrey, whether you like it or not, fair or unfair. And I will say this, the last 14 Super Bowl MVP winners, 10 have played the quarterback position. As most things have gone in football, Heisman Trophy, MVP award in the regular season, if there is an individual and a quarterback is in consideration, it is often a QB award, the most important, the most valuable position on the football field. But in the last decade, Donnie, 6 of the 10 have played quarterback. By the way, 5 of those 6, either Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. 2 have been a wide receiver, Julian Edelman, Cooper Kupp. 2 have been defensive players, Von Miller for the Broncos, Malcolm Smith for the Seattle Seahawks in the last decade. So that is to say, we have seen as many defensive players as non-quarterback offensive players win a Super Bowl MVP award in the last 10 years. Well, the defensive player with the shortest number to win Super Bowl 58 MVP, that would be Nick Bosa at 90-1 for the San Francisco 49ers. After that, it's Jadeveon Clowney at 230-1 for the Baltimore Ravens. Just something to keep in mind. But let's compare the quarterbacks at the top of this board. There is Lamar Jackson versus Brock Purdy. When you look at the division around stats, it was not the greatest day for Brock Purdy. A very efficient final drive, 6 of 7, 47 yards, a couple of scrambles, 11 yards. When you look at Christian McCaffrey, nearly 130 total yards and 2 total scores, including the game-winning touchdown. That is why Run CMC is at plus 550, only about $2 behind Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl 58 odds.
Yeah, and you also let's equate the San Francisco 49ers scheme, right, Ben, to the other teams that were in it and why Christian McCaffrey is such a dominant force here with a legitimate chance to win MVP. Forget the quarterbacks, right? Take them out of the equation. Just look how the backfield settle. Gus Edwards, as we know, is the lead dog in Baltimore, but not by a wide margin. Gus Edwards isn't the guy you bet on every week to get 100-plus rushing yards and have 24 to 25 carries because they have multiple guys that they mix in there. Quite frankly, one of your running backs is Lamar Jackson by default. Then you take a look here and flip it over here to the Detroit Lions, who if they get to the Super Bowl, they got a couple electric running backs. But the fact of the matter is both of those guys are basically lined up to each get, let's just say, 12 carries apiece. So it's hard to separate here. You're not going to ride the hot hand. The reason why we bring up the 49ers in that backfield now, it used to be even a year ago. We heard Kyle Shanahan use these terms early in the season. Boy, I would love a 50-50 backfield split with Christian McCaffrey to sort of like keep him fresh. Well, they went away from that this year. It's Christian McCaffrey every play as much as they can. And also keep in mind building up to this. We know Deebo Samuel is banged up. Does he play this weekend? Does he not play this weekend? Or if he plays, does he re-injure it? And then that might hurt him for the Super Bowl. Something to keep an eye on. McCaffrey is the lead dog you know is getting those goal line carries. You can't say that for the other teams left in it, which is why he's ranked so high.
Who would win Super Bowl 58's MVP award? Who would win Super Bowl 58? The numbers next.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev. Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Kyle Shanahan said after the game it was the same shoulder that made Deebo Samuel miss 2 games throughout this regular season in 2023.
Last time it was a scapular fracture. He missed a couple weeks. By video, we don't see that. It was the play that he got hit, had a head check. It's more believed to be a muscle injury. X-rays are proven to be negative. They're saying 50-50 right now.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a Knicks fan. I feel bad for Obi Toppin. I mean, Obi Toppin was backing up Julius Randle, and then he got his opportunity in Indiana, was playing great, didn't play deep, brought him off the bench, and now they got Pascal Siakam, and now he's going into a free agent year. So Obi may be looking for a new home, but I do like that fast break if it's Halliburton with Obi and Siakam.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
They were best friends. Like they like Siakam's best friend on the team was Chris Boucher. Chris Boucher's best friend on the team was Pascal Siakam. They're not American, right? So there's different cliques in the NBA, and they were very, very tight. So Chris Boucher, I got rattled like seeing Chris Boucher and thinking about the memories. But Raptors responded.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
One that's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The NFL's Final Four. 4 NFL teams on Conference Championship weekend looking for 2 spots in Super Bowl 58 out in Viva Las Vegas. Donnie Rightside and I will be at the airport in the desert to greet the Super Bowl teams when they get there in the middle of February. So it's never too early then to look at the odds for a Lombardi Trophy. And no, not just the outright odds that we examine each and every week throughout the NFL season, all 18 regular season weeks, and now into the playoffs the past 2 weekends that we have had, but the expected outcomes and the hypothetical lines for those 4 potential matchups. Donnie, as we said, the margin between the Niners and the Ravens to win Super Bowl 58 grows shorter by the day. San Francisco remains the favorite, plus 145. Baltimore, second best number now at plus 175. 35 cents of movement in favor of the flock from where this market was yesterday, even after the divisional round came to a close. So that is the expected outcome. The 2 number 1 seeds battling it out for a Lombardi Trophy in Las Vegas. San Francisco at this moment would be a very slight favorite, laying 1.5 in the Super Bowl 58 matchup against the Ravens, but that money line grows shorter as well. Minus 116 yesterday for San Fran, minus 102 yesterday other side for Baltimore. Now it's only 4 cents of difference on the money line. Minus 110 San Francisco, minus 106 Baltimore.
Yeah, I love it, which is perfect for me because I have a ticket here at the FanDuel Sportsbook that I placed on, I believe, August the 14th on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl at an 18-1 price. I won't see that all the way through because I'm going to start the hedging this weekend to make sure I get my money back, which is nice because you have the Kansas City Chiefs this weekend as an underdog at about like a plus 150 price. But in the Super Bowl, I do think the Baltimore Ravens still will win the Super Bowl, but I won't have that full ticket here. And the reason being is you might have thought maybe weeks ago San Francisco lining up in the Super Bowl as, let's just say, 3, 4, maybe 5-point favorites over the Ravens, which would have made hedging a little bit tougher because then you're looking at the 49ers, Ben, minus 150, minus 160, minus 170, which gets to be an expensive hedge. If we keep it exactly the way it is, it's a de facto pick 'em, as you said, right? Minus 110, minus 106. To lay off money at a minus 110 is the perfect scenario in that spot. So I'm hoping the Ravens win this weekend, and then these numbers stay similar. And heck, maybe the Ravens even flip to a minus 106, or, getting that minus 106 price. We can lay it off with that side of the 49ers as opposed to the minus 110, and it'll be a little bit cheaper here. We're looking forward to, if that is the Super Bowl outcome, the 49ers and the Ravens, where both teams are healthy, that's going to be an awesome week in Las Vegas to break this game down because it's exciting from everything we visioned, including already getting to see them play, which was the case on Christmas Day. I can't wait to see it play out here, but this is the perfect scenario for me that's lining up.
Me as well, or at least that other astute handicapper at the SportsGrid network that laid it with San Francisco plus 175 ahead of the divisional round with some great value for a Niners team that's a 7-point favorite in the NFC Championship game. You don't get 30 cents often, so when the number goes plus 175 to plus 145, you're ahead of the curve. I also have that astute handicapper rather has a Super Bowl ticket. He told me on the Kansas City Chiefs at 6-1 following Super Wild Card weekend. So that astute handicapper just told me, breaking news, that he bet the exact result, the Baltimore Ravens over the San Francisco 49ers at 3-1 to pretty much cover all bases except a Lions upset, but we'll get to that point in just a moment. Donnie, I do want to go back to the forecasted hypothetical matchup between the 2 number 1 overall seeds, the 2 Super Bowl favorites at this moment, San Francisco and Baltimore, because we go back to Christmas weekend in the finale of that triple header on Christmas Day, the marquee matchup, a game we all look forward to in Santa Clara, the 49ers and the Ravens. Of course, it was Baltimore that went in to Santa Clara and won outright by 2 touchdowns, thorough domination as a 5.5-point underdog. I said at that moment, if San Francisco right now, of course it's not a Super Bowl atmosphere, a playoff atmosphere, and it is a home game, is a 5.5-point favorite against the team with the second best price to win the Super Bowl at the same moment, they would be booked closer to a field goal favorite in a Super Bowl game against any other team, the flock included, in that Super Bowl matchup in Las Vegas. Well, you see the odds now. It's 1.5, and it's 4 cents of difference on that money line. So let's just play the hypothetical game once again. The Ravens are a 3.5-point favorite against the Chiefs in the first game of Conference Championship Sunday. The Niners are a larger favorite now at a full touchdown against the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game. Let's say the Ravens cover and the Niners do not. Is there a chance, Donnie, Baltimore would enter Super Bowl 58 come the conclusion of Conference Championship weekend booked as the favored side?
Yes, I do believe that. And the money will tell the tale. It's still interesting that we're lining this up this way because we know those odds would be much, much different here just on to win the Super Bowl if, as I said, the Ravens didn't have to take on the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Or let's just say the Ravens were taking on a team that they were favored by 6.5 or 7 points, just like the 49ers are. But you still have to clear that hurdle, which is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. But then again, that future line doesn't have any bearing technically on that as we sit right now of how hard it's going to get there. They're actually saying, no, the Ravens are already in the Super Bowl and they're still an underdog price. But the public does have that advantage to come over the top because we've seen this before. And Ben, this wouldn't be one of those like, what did you want Baltimore to do? They're on the road on Christmas. They weren't supposed to win that game anyway and went home would be fine. Yeah. We have that in our argument saying like, no. We've seen Baltimore play playoff caliber team after playoff caliber team this season and smash them. We've also seen them play the Detroit Lions and absolutely wax the Lions as still one of those teams left in the Final Four. So that last piece of the puzzle was like, we handle Kansas City here. Why are we not the favorite? And they would have an argument here. Let's just say both of these teams play through and each win by 7 points as they head to the Super Bowl and nobody gets injured here. Why wouldn't the Ravens be favoring this game? So now you said, well, we saw them play before, and the game wasn't in Baltimore to, hey, look, the 49ers got ambushed in Baltimore that week. They already had the number 1 seed wrapped up. They were looking ahead. They were just looking to get to the playoffs. That wasn't the case. That was a big-time game where I actually thought the Ravens would get beat in that game and showed up as clearly the better football team. And also then waxing the Miami Dolphins and blasting the Texans, everybody's upstart team. I would actually not be surprised if after we get through this weekend, earlier next week, that the Ravens open up as the 1.5-point favorite in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely so. Listen, San Francisco, as they will enter a Conference Championship Sunday, now as a touchdown favorite again, has been booked as a favorite in all 18 games the Niners have played this year. If we continue it over into game number 19 and that line remains at 7 points or greater, it will be the 12th time in 19 games the 49ers have been booked as a touchdown favorite or greater. 7 times under a touchdown, 6 with Brock Purdy as the starting quarterback. Of course, it was Sam Darnold that started week number 18 against the LA Rams. 6 times in that juncture, both 4 and 2 straight up and against the spread. One of the 2 losses outright against the Baltimore Ravens, who with Lamar Jackson as the starting quarterback under center, an underdog twice this year. Week 16, Christmas Day, ending of that triple header, week number 2 on the road in Cincinnati. Baltimore is a perfect 2-0 straight up and outright as an underdog. Under John Harbaugh since 2008, one of the best underdog teams in the National Football League. As it stands right now, that's the expected outcome. The outcome in Super Bowl 58 in a potential matchup that has the largest spread would be 4.5 points in favor of the Ravens against the Detroit Lions. They have not made an NFC Championship game since 1991. How about an appearance in a Super Bowl game? Donnie, this one from a public perspective, as we learned yesterday in our Fade the Public poll, when the Ravens had the most votes, and then the Lions, even ahead of the Chiefs and the Niners, had the second most votes to win Super Bowl 58. This is what the public wants. They don't want to see San Francisco there once again. They're getting tired of the Chiefs' domination. It would be their 4th Super Bowl appearance in the last 5 years. This is the game the public wants, and it would be a 4.5-point spread in favor of the flock.
Yeah, and again, I actually think Detroit matches up really well if we take a look and say, well, what do you do well? Well, the Ravens want to be ultra physical. The one thing we know about the Lions defense is the front 7 can handle the running game. The struggle is on the back end, which then brings in that, Lamar Jackson can't pass when we know that isn't the case. And also keep in mind, you are playing the Super Bowl where, Ben? Not in Baltimore, would be outdoors with 20 degrees and probably 15-mile-an-hour winds. You're playing in Las Vegas. That is a dome environment where the Lions love to play themselves in a dome. So that 4.5 year, again, if you're saying just from a ticket perspective for me for the Ravens, you just play the odds, right? Like, oh, I hope the Lions upset the 49ers. That's an easier lineup here. When necessarily it is, and the odds say it is, but that fits right into that Lions MO of how the Ravens play. That would be a fun game, and rightfully so. That number at 49 makes a lot of sense. I think there'd be a lot of offense in there, but I like the matchup, actually, for the Detroit Lions up against the Baltimore Ravens.
The Detroit Lions have never played in a Super Bowl. They last played in an NFL championship in 1957, but that was before the merger between the AFC and the NFC. The AFL at the time, of course, as it stood. So the Detroit Lions have never reached that ultimate prize of a Super Bowl championship game appearance. A 4.5-point number. Man, that would be some fun. The Lions only an underdog 3 times this year. Season opener against KC, against the Ravens, they got shellacked. And, of course, Week 17 in that Saturday night game at the Star in Dallas. 2-1 against the spread, 1 outright victory. If Dan Skipper had properly reported as tackle eligible, we'll leave that be in that conversation. Probably 2-1 straight up as an underdog, which is a clear juxtaposition, Donnie, from where Detroit was in the first 2 years under Dan Campbell, booked as a dog in 28 of 34 games, 19-9 against the spread. By the way, the Lions, the best cover team the last 3 seasons in the NFL overall, 36-17 ATS, a 68% cover percentage. One of the other options, of course, is San Francisco and Kansas City. A rematch of the 2019 NFL season Super Bowl. That was Super Bowl 54, the first for Patrick Mahomes. That would be a 3-point spread in favor of the 49ers. Interesting to see San Francisco as a field goal favorite, as much as a field goal favorite against Kansas City.
Yeah, and that's being it also. If we end up with the 49ers and Chiefs, we'll be a little bit upset that the Chiefs are there. From a betting perspective, yes, but from a content perspective, that would be an unbelievable game to break down as it goes, 47.5. But you would give Andy Reid 2 weeks to get ready for those blitz packages and maybe Deebo Samuel an extra few weeks to get ready. I do believe that is the right line there. San Francisco, to me, would win that football game because they're better overall in defense and they have the better overall offense. You're not going to be able to push that football down the field on a San Francisco's healthy defense with 2 weeks to get ready. We've seen this play out before where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers absolutely wrecked the offensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs, and maybe the 49ers front four can do the same thing. So we've seen it before. I think the Niners would win that matchup.
Back in Super Bowl 54, Kansas City did close as a slight 1.5-point favorite. They would be the underdog in a rematch against the 49ers this year. It would be a 3.5-point spread in favor of Kansas City against Detroit. It would also be the projected highest total in any Super Bowl 58 matchup, 50.5. See, look what the guys in the back do. They knew this would get a rise out of me. Midwest matchup. Yes, Kansas City, Missouri technically is Midwest. The game would be played out in Las Vegas, debunking everything you just said in a Midwest matchup. We will hear from the people to end out this second hour, and I got to cool down in just a little bit.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev. Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Kyle Shanahan said after the game it was the same shoulder that made Deebo Samuel miss 2 games throughout this regular season in 2023.
Last time it was a scapular fracture. He missed a couple weeks. By video, we don't see that. It was the play that he got hit and had a head check. It's more believed to be a muscle injury. X-rays are proven to be negative. They're saying 50-50 right now.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a Knicks fan. I feel bad for Obi Toppin. I mean, Obi Toppin was backing up Julius Randle, And then he got his opportunity in Indiana, was playing great, didn't play deep, brought him off the bench. And now they got Pascal Siakam, and now he's going into a free agent year. So Obi may be looking for a new home. But I do like that fast break if it's Halliburton with Obi and Siakam.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
They were best friends. Like Siakam's best friend on the team was Chris Boucher. Chris Boucher's best friend on the team was Pascal Siakam. They're not American, right? So there's different cliques in the NBA. And they were very, very tight. So Chris Boucher, I got rattled seeing Chris Boucher and thinking about the memories, but Raptors responded.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
One that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
We end out this second hour of the Early Line Live right here on this Tuesday on SportsGrid. It's Ben, it's Donnie, and it's the SportsGrid app, the ultimate sports betting companion app, available for download at both the Apple and the Play Store. You can scan that QR code on your screen in a matter of moments. All of our info and insight available in the palm of your hand. We love hearing from the people at the end of this second hour. And although there's still 4 teams left in the hunt for Super Bowl 58, that means 28 others already into the offseason, and a few of those other teams already bounced in the playoffs. Who had the biggest playoff disappointment? That was the question in Fade the Public. At SportsGrid TV on Twitter, 14 teams made the NFL playoffs, 7 in each conference. That means 10 have already been eliminated. So who had the biggest disappointment this postseason in the 2023 NFL campaign? The Buffalo Bills, the Dallas Cowboys, the Miami Dolphins, the Philadelphia Eagles, and potentially unsurprisingly, Donnie, the Cowboys running away with this poll. 64%, greater than 64% of the votes going with the Cowboys.
Absolutely nailed it. The public is dead on here. There's no reason to fade the public as they got it wrong. They got it absolutely correct. You take a look at the Buffalo Bills. You start that breakdown on them. Look, disappointment, absolutely. The Miami Dolphins heading into the playoffs maybe would have been different if they were healthy. Not big a disappointment. One would say that maybe the Philadelphia Eagles should have got more votes in here, but we saw the writing on the wall down the stretch for the Eagles where them bowing out early wasn't really a disappointment. The Dallas Cowboys stole the number 2 seed. All those expectations only to get blasted at home in Jerry Road where they didn't lose a single football game in basically 2 years and out quickly there. 64%. Maybe it's not even enough at the 64%.
The only thing I would argue, and we'll dive deeper into the conversation when hour 3 starts in less than a minute, is the idea that the Cowboys always fail in the postseason. We'll continue the conversation. Hour 3 starts in 55 seconds.